Your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people just like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today's guest was featured in an episode about a month ago. It was really with his mother and brother. They were doing a cooking demo from their wonderful book, Pure Ambrosia, and people said, you got to have Josh, you got to have Josh. So here he is, Josh LaJuanie. How you doing, Josh?
Hi. Hi. Thanks for having me, Chef AJ.
Absolutely. You look great.
Wonderful.
You look like you even lost more weight. You look very
I have.
svelte.
I'm getting leaner. I'm not necessarily a whole lot lighter. I'm still about 197, 198. But my body fat has dropped. I've been doing some very specific things with workout and nutrition with a friend of mine. Just because I'm always wanting to like go to the next place.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah,
Well,
so I am a little bit leaner. Thanks for noticing. It feels good.
no, really, you do. And if anybody is new to Josh LaJuanie, he has an amazing story of losing a whole person. He was over 400 pounds. He's under 200 pounds, so at least a 200-pound website. Do you ever get tired of telling that story? Because you have so many podcasts. I put you into podcasts because I like to prepare, even though I know you. And it's like, man, you've done it all. You've been on Rich Roll 3 times.
I know. I don't. I don't. I I have to say, Chef is tricky because I want to say I don't get tired of telling the story, but I do. I do. I get tired of telling it over and over. Um, but the only thing that really sort of keeps me going and keeps me doing it, even though it's not necessarily fun. I often feel like I'm talking about myself, and it gets to be like it feels neocentric at times. Very, but I often get so many private messages from people about, hey, look, I know I'm just so and so, and I know this message probably doesn't matter to you very much, but please keep doing what you're doing. I'm a fat boy from South Mississippi, and I grew up hunting and fishing all my life, and you've been a real. And so when those things happen, it just makes me okay, knuckle up, deal with it, keep telling the story, and keep being available for that part of with the universe.
I recently heard you on the PCRM podcast, and I think one of the your whole story is remarkable, even if it was only you losing 200 pounds. But the way you were able to influence your family, that doesn't happen very often.
I have a very close family with, like most families, you might even call our closeness dysfunctional at times, right? We love each other a lot, and we've been through a lot. We're going through a lot, like most families. And I just happen to be the firstborn, and throughout life, I guess maybe I have had been the person to try to bring um, new things to the family, or one of the people. And so it just happened that this was one that I was very passionate about because I had felt what it had done inside my own body. And from the things I was learning from Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Campbell and you and Dr. Barnard and all of these people, it was like, holy, excuse me, I almost cursed, but I was like, holy cow, I not only am losing weight, but I'm changing what seemed like for a good part of my adult years anyway, a dire health outcome based on my genetics and my family. And so once I learned that, oh, we can sidestep these genetics. It's not a guarantee that just because all the other Lajani men died of heart attacks, that's what I got to do. And so it became bigger than just a diet or bigger than just losing weight. It became a way for us to really, like Dr. Esselstyn says, you know, use like take that locus of control. We have control. Stop putting our doctors on a pedestal and just groveling at their feet. So please tell me, what should I do? What's wrong? No, we can take control ourselves. And Dr. Esselstyn in a plant-based diet taught me that, and I couldn't shut up about it with my family. And because they were seeing results, they just really, I'm very proud of it. That's all. I'm
It's
very proud.
amazing. I've always said you guys should have a show, a reality show. The LaJohnies. It's so much better than anything on TV. Seeing you guys together. And Diane is commenting what I said when we first logged on. He looks thinner than the last time you interviewed him. Love the one with his family and strong family dynamics. And if you didn't see Josh on the Truth About Weight Loss Summit this year, he was really like everybody made a big deal about how you really helped a lot of people with that story because so many. so many people want, than I know, want to lose 5 pounds. They want to lose 10 pounds or maybe 30, but it's so much different when you have 200 or more pounds to lose, because it's not going to happen overnight.
No, you can't fix it all at once. You have to pick a direction and get moving and understand that that direction is going to wax and wane and evolve over time. There's going to be different things that motivate you and pull you through. Because people always ask me, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? There was none. You got to understand, like, I reinvent a reason to keep pushing almost every day, you know? And it's just so much about not trying to fix it all at once, and a football mindset thing of win the day. Win the day. You know?
Jane says, Josh, how did you push yourself to keep going in the very beginning when you don't see much of a change? Because that's true. If you have a lot of weight to lose, 10 pounds doesn't necessarily show up. I mean, as a weight loss when you, maybe on the
Right.
scale. Yeah.
Well, the scale showed. That was the thing that really got me going is early on. Um, I had done calculations on, because I was so heavy, how many calories I would burn in a given amount of steps. So I got sort of really nerdy about quantifying these things. I was going to school at the time. I was a senior at Nicholls State University right here in Thibodeau, and I bought a pedometer and I put it on my weight on my belt. And I was like, okay, so if I weigh 400 plus pounds and I'm walking from, Powell White all the way to Go Hall, how many steps is that? How many calories is that? And so I started counting. And when I started counting those things, I was like, whoa, I'm burning a whole bunch more calories than regular skinny people walking around campus. I'm actually doing a really hell of a good workout walking my big body around. And so understanding that and paying attention that, oh, even my daily activity is burning 4,000 calories a day. Okay, that really gave me some traction to keep paying attention. And not only was I paying attention to the calories I was burning at the time, but once I got a scale that worked, the scale started moving because for a long time, like for a couple of months in the beginning, I had a scale that would only say error. Once I got a scale that showed me a weight, and I saw 397 for the very first time on a scale, and I was like, okay. But then rather than get discouraged, because I knew I was heavy, but there was a sting to seeing that number. But then there's a second wave that comes of, okay, it's just a matter of all I got to do is keep moving. My body's big, I'm heavy, I can burn a lot of calories. If I just curb my food, then we can get moving. And in the beginning, when I was really heavy, the thing that kept me going, honestly, was how easy it was to lose weight at first. But that's why I said that has to change, because that changes over time. It gets really slow as you get less and less weight.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. How long did your whole journey take from the over 400 pounds to under 200 pounds? Several
so just
years, right?
just from the weight part, like, so I was down under 200 pounds by 2014. So that would have been from 2011 to 2014, 3 whole years of me doing a lot of things wrong, a lot of paleo in there, a lot of low carb in there. Um, in the beginning, I mean, the first 100 pounds, I was doing things like that, and it wasn't until discovering plant based and discovering running and whole food plant based specifically that the weight really, and understanding volumetrics, understanding the things that you showed me at that New Orleans Veg Fest that time. I don't even know if you remember that. It was a long time ago, but 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 calorie density. That was the first time I'd ever heard of such a thing in that talk you gave, and yeah, that helped. That helped a lot.
You really understand calorie density, but I think you've taken it even further, because one thing you say that is really important, which I think I might steal from you one day, is about naturally obtainable amounts.
Right. Yes. Correct. That, because as a Louisiana person, I grew up hunting and fishing and living. We call ourselves the sportsman's paradise in Louisiana. So I fancy myself a person that understands nature, that pays attention to animals' behaviors and stuff. So I know what squirrels eat, I know what speckled trout eat, and I know what yellowfin tuna will eat, and I know all of it, what deer eat, and so it just made good sense to me that not only it kind of two things at once happened. When you said eat to the left of the red line, I was like, wow, all of those foods are the foods that would be just completely abundant in nature. The greens, the things, the tubers, the things we would be able to find tons and tons of those. And it just made good sense to me that the things that are naturally attainable, their naturally attainable quantity is sort of abundant. The green leafies, the things, the tubers, the roots and stuff. That made good sense to me that that would make up a huge bulk of our diet because they're easier to obtain. And so, and it also helps me, it's also a prism through which I can pass my nut consumption and the more calorically dense things that are acceptable in a whole food plant-based diet, yet we, for whatever reason, completely throw quantity out of the window sometimes, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, I was interviewing Marion Nestle yesterday, and she said, how much you eat really does matter. And we weren't able, our ancestors didn't get nuts that were shelled, roasted, and salted in 3-pound bags at Costco.
Correct. Eating 8 ounces of nuts in two handfuls is not a normal thing. The human, in all of our millions of years of evolution, has never experienced such nut abundance. Pipe down, relax. Yes, nuts are healthy, but goodness gracious, not more the better.
It's just that I find at least the people I work with, it's very hard to moderate even to that 1 ounce.
That's exactly right. It is very, very difficult. I have wrestled with nuts on and off over the years. I'm back on right now, just but being very, very careful and weighing and counting and putting. I got little containers where I'll put 14 or 15 and take them with me for the day. But yeah, it's a very slippery slope item for sure. There's no doubt.
Yep. So we have a question from a live viewer. Who was it? They want to know what you eat every day. I'm trying to figure it. What I see moves. Oh, there we go. Beverly. Hi, Beverly. How you doing? What is Josh's daily diet? I bet it's mostly to the left of the red line.
Um, yeah, it is. A good chunk of it is to the left of the red line. I do eat tofu, and tempeh, and things like that. But I would say just a good general 3 meals is I start almost every day with a version of a tofu scramble. It might look more like a stir fry tofu scramble or a jambalaya tofu scramble or whatever, but it's going to be some base that is technically a tofu scramble with lots of veg and greens and broccoli and stuff. That's one of my favorite things to have in the morning. I usually do a smoothie, a big heavy, not a big heavy, but just a big smoothie with lots of frozen bananas and cherries and lots of greens and stuff and hemp hearts and stuff like that to really give me a good, it'll probably honestly have 600 calories in my smoothie. And I'll eat that. I'll drink that for lunch, maybe half before. I started doing like you. I started taking a little ice chest with me. So I'll take my smoothie and I'll drink half of it and then drink half of it later. And then for dinner, I'll just usually have like another type. Like I love to saute mushrooms. We go through so many mushrooms in our house, so it'll usually just be some sort of another warm dish where maybe some sort of a plant-based burger with some sauteed mushrooms, and maybe I'll do it on a romaine leaf and have like burger romaine. That's another. I love using romaine leaves as like a bread or a taco shell. And so I'll make a concoction of say like sauteed mushrooms and onions with some rice in it and some nooch and some Tony Chachere's and just make it taste good and then eat it in romaine leaves, you know, or on a hamburger bun if I'm feeling extra sinful.
Do you have an air fryer?
I have an air fryer. I have a doozy. I have a good one. I love my air fryer.
No.
I don't know
People
if
are
I would live
asking.
without.
They're the best. Do you have the Breville or a smaller one?
No, I have I think it's I can't remember the name of it, but I bought it at Walmart. It's one of those countertop deals that has the door. It's like a toaster oven. and it has the big rack in the middle, so you can load it up with stuff. One of my favorite things to stick in there is just tempeh strips, and I toss it in seasoning and nutritional yeast, and then throw it in there, and the nutritional yeast kind of gives it almost like a crispy, like outside. Oh, it's one of my favorite little snacks.
It's the
But yeah, I
best.
put that in there. I love
People are asking about your shirt, what the crab means. They're saying, "Are you a Cancer?" I know you're not because you're an Aries like me. So what's the story about your shirt?
This is a race shirt. This is the Mississippi Gulf Coast Marathon. I ran in 2019.
And you're
Yes,
still running, right?
yes,
Wow.
correct.
And you started running when you were heavy.
Right. That's honestly, if it hadn't been for running, I don't know if I'd have ever came to a plant-based diet. Um, Running got me there. I sort of accidentally backed into running because, like I said, I started tracking my steps, right? And so that sort of evolved into my tracking my steps became into, oh, let me do some extracurricular steps that I track because I'm getting this many steps in a day. Let me get these many extra steps in a day. And then that slowly evolved into walking and running. And then that really got me excited about doing my very first race, which because I love New Orleans, I'm a huge Saints fan, I'm a huge Louisiana fan. I'm born and bred Louisiana. I'm proud of my state, proud of my history, proud of where I'm from. And so in New Orleans, they have this race called the Crescent City Classic, and I ran that race with a good friend of mine in 2012. That was the first race I ever did, and I was still probably 335 pounds at that time. But for me at that time, that was super duper light. I was down almost 100 pounds, you know, and so I was excited about that. But yeah, I've been running ever since I was big, and I was hella slower, you know. I mean, because back then that was probably a 15-minute pace for a 10K, so 15 minutes per mile. Whereas now, when I run that same race, if I'm not doing 7 minutes per mile, I'm going to be bummed at the end of the race because that's the speed that it takes to get in the top 500 and win a special commemorative poster, which is kind of like what I like to do now. In that very same race, is I'm a top 500 finisher regularly, whereas before it took me almost 2 hours to finish the damn thing and barely made it. It's just a really special thing. But yeah, running was huge, and running is where I learned about Scott Jurek, and the rest is history when it comes to plant-based diet.
Oh, that's amazing. A lot of the women that I work with, when they lose weight and they're quite slender, they still see themselves as heavy. Did that happen for you for a while, or do you know that you're thin now?
Yeah, no, I still feel fat every day. I do.
Wow.
I do. There's just moments that I feel my body when I bend a certain way. If I pass by the mirror when I'm not wearing clothes. So me posing and taking pictures of myself and showing my muscles, and it's all a lot of it is me trying to convince myself, you know, because yeah, it's not just body fat that makes a person morbidly obese. There's a lot going on in here. And so that self-deprecating sort of vein inside of your fat brain it dies hard. It takes, and so rather than try and wish it would go away, I just try and work with it the best I can and be open and transparent with people to let them know that just because you got a mess going on in here doesn't mean you can't get some traction in Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I feel fat often.
That's so interesting. I mean, I know it took me a while, but I know I'm not anymore. I don't
I
know. It's
know
been,
I'm not.
yeah.
When I put on 32 jeans, and I do, sometimes the opposite happens. I pass by the mirror and I can't believe it's me without a shirt. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I got all of these little things going on, these little stretch marks and the wiggly places on my belly. But generally speaking, I would never in a million years thought I was going to look like this when I was 42 years old. Never. So yeah, it's a lot more positive than negative, no doubt. But I don't want to pretend as if I don't have those feelings and everything's all fine and dandy.
It's so interesting. So, you were so much able to inspire your family, but friends, not so much, right? Or at least people in your community.
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah, I don't want to put them on blast. I love them to death, but I have a few friends that I have a few. Most of my friends are hard headed. We would call that down here head dude. That's like head like a rock, hard head, you know. And so they're not really interested in doing much change, right? But I have a select few, a handful, who, for one reason or other, whether it's from heart disease or just from being uber pragmatic after watching Forks Over Knives or what the hell, have come to me and said, I'm gonna start eating that way. You got any tips? Where should I go? Can you help me out? And so honestly, I've got probably two or three really good friends who are from the Bayou, who sound like me, who have crazy Cajun last names like myself, um, who grew up hunting and fishing, who are also now plant based and have completely changed their cardiovascular outcome trajectory. And I'm super proud. I'm super proud. And even for the people who haven't really jumped on and made life changing um, sort of commitments in their life to better outcomes, a lot of those people have, you know, there are there's still some marginal sort of acceptance of there needs to be a change in how we eat.
Well, where you live is not actually known as a mecca for good eating.
Yeah. I saw a guy in one of my favorite vegan places in New Orleans, and he said, here in New Orleans, we are basically the food capital of the country, if not the world. And we're also the heart disease capital of the country. So those two things they have something to do with each other. So let's be responsible, let's be objective, let's be pragmatic about this. And
I
tradition
remember
is one thing, but human life is, come on.
I'm trying to remember what city of the South I was in, but I went to one of the stores like Dixie, Winn Dixie, or Piggly Wiggly, and of course they sell meat in stores. I understand that, but when I've been at the South, they had actual aisles where it was just bacon. Like there was a bacon aisle.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
That is,
They do this thing at the grocery store. I'm not gonna beat them up, but there's a grocery store in New Orleans that I go to regularly. And what they do with the ground pork is they mold it into the face of a pig, like a pig head face. And it's just the most, and it's mind-boggling to me how that's not disturbing. How that's like marketing. That's seen as marketing in a grocery store. It's crazy. It's wild.
you're good. How long did it take you to like the food, the taste of
I
the food?
Kale was my big one, um, and I don't know time wise. I would say just a series. I would say probably months before I figured out how to eat kale. And again, you were critical in that because you were the very first person that introduced the idea of massaging the kale. And I watched you do that demo, and that was very important. And then you've changed the recipe since, but your hail to the kale dressing was like, boom. It's like, oh, I could eat all the kale in the world now. Just pour some of this on top. Great. But the other stuff, like I'm trying to think, like yeah, nutritional yeast and tempeh and tofu and those types of things, they just don't have that same upfront bang that fried fish or sausage has, right? Because it's caloric density thing happening. There's a palatability thing happening with the fat and caloric density of the fat. So as I learned more, I appreciated it, and I could accept my food for more of its net value rather than that gross upfront thing that it brings to the palate. You know, so much. I just developed a real sort of jaded outlook on palatability in general, which sounds totally masochistic and totally almost sacrilegious for a Cajun person. But I really moved away from palatability being a priority. Um, my food still tastes amazing, but it's not, I'm not always trying to one up every dish. Like every time, like for an example, if my brother and my mom or my grandfather and I, we had made a crawfish stew or something. Oh, as soon we eating it and it would be delicious, but well, it would be good. Next time we could start that with a little bacon, and then we could put some tasso in there and we could finish it off with, we always wanting to make it taste even a little better, even if it's the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. You constantly working your brain. Boy, you know what? If we deep fried it, it'd be even better. Like it's always another thing. So just removing that component from how I deal with food, that constant climb of of, of palatability, was a huge step in me sort of settling in a more medium area when it comes to that upfront burst of dopamine that food gives me. And Dr. Barnard and the Pleasure Trap and all of the things that I learned with that really helped me sort of solidify my protocol in my own mind, you know. And that's
It's interesting because when people lose weight, that exercise isn't necessarily necessary to lose weight.
right.
I think it's
Correct.
necessary for other reasons, but I'm wondering in your case, because you actually started the exercise first, so you were flooding your brain with some of those feel good exercise chemicals. Maybe it actually made it easier for you to adjust to the food than people that are just waiting to lose weight before they start exercising there, because you replaced that with something else that made you feel good.
1,000%. I agree. I totally think it was an accident. Um, and that I started the physical journey first, like and that just comes because that's just a carryover of my history as an athlete and being in the gym as a football player. So that's where I was most comfortable, was getting sweaty. That was what was most comfortable for me first. And you're absolutely right, flooding my brain with all of the oxygen and blood that comes with physical activity, and dopamine and serotonin and all of these things. It definitely puts you in a mindset that makes you feel positive about yourself, such that you're willing to do these risky things that make you feel vulnerable, like being seen as the fat guy trying to not be fat anymore. Just going as a fat guy, going to a restaurant and ordering a salad, you may as well just put your hand up and say, "Hey guys, I just want y'all to know I'm trying to lose weight right now." You know. And so there's all of these little micro sort of things, these micro dynamics, if you will, that people discount, that really chip away at your stick to itiveness when it comes to the food. And for me, I'm very thankful that I started on the physical exertion journey first, because it really helped build my mental strength and you know my capacity for discomfort, to be honest. Because making hard food decisions is not always easy when you're at someone's birthday party and it's a cute little girl and she wants you to have a piece of her birthday cake. What are you gonna do? You know. And so those are very awkward and hard situations. But having put myself in a physically difficult situation regularly, not only does it contribute to the dopamine and all of the feel good chemicals that come along, but it also acclimates you to uncomfortable situations. And you can tap into that, I have found, when you're dealing with difficult food situations. In Cajun culture, if you get invited to go to a crawfish bar, it's almost an insult to not eat their crawfish. Not almost, it's definitely an insult. You know, and so understanding that those things are coming and that you're gonna rub up against it from time to time, and you just gotta grin and bear it and let it suck and deal with it. Um, that comes from the physical part for me. That has really lent a very strong helping hand in changing my food for sure.
In addition to saying about eating things in naturally obtainable amounts, one of the things that always goes through my head that you said, especially when people are contemplating gastric bypass surgery, or I'm hearing doctors talk about it, I'm like, no, make the food larger. Don't make your stomach, I mean, make the food larger instead of making your stomach smaller. I thought that was just such a profound way to look at it.
Yeah, and people don't understand it. It's People don't understand how easily you can mess up caloric density with you eat. Oh, I ate two baked potatoes today because I saw I watched a McDougal thing. Okay, what was on the baked potato? Like, because if you put vegan butter on the potato, if you put mayo on the potato, all those fat calories are going to fat now because you have satisfied your caloric demand with all of the carb richness and deliciousness of the potato. But because now we add some fat to it, now we have enough. Now we've really affected the caloric density of just that one baked potato. People don't understand how quickly they can turn a 500 calorie meal into an 800 or 900 calorie meal with no real depreciable volume change. You know, you're not getting any fuller from the food. You just have an extra 500-600 calories, and it might be marginally more delicious to eat. Um, and that just adds up. It just adds up. Not only from the oxidative priority perspective of your body's going to burn all the carbs first, and it saves the fat to the end. So you're going to be if you're satisfied calorically with carbs, any fat you do eat is going to go on your body. That's what Dr. McDougall means by the fat you eat, the fat you wear, because we're talking about eating a very high carb diet, which is even more important to be low fat.
Absolutely. I'm surprised none of the doctors there have like just grabbed you and told you to go speak at all the hospitals.
I have a lot of doctor friends, and you'd be surprised. I do have a bunch of the lifestyle medicine physicians who invite me to come and speak at their things, and they do ask me to come mouthpiece our lifestyle often. So they do that
That would be so
a lot.
cool.
Honored.
You know, so many people that lose weight through so much suffering and effort often gain some or all of it back. That clearly hasn't happened to you, but is there like a little voice in the back of your head, like worried that it could?
Um, well, of course, I think it's very deep and it's very quiet and it's way in the back of my head. But of course, that thing is there. And I have put on weight. You know, I put on 5 or 10 pounds, and then go, what are you doing? You know, I have, going through injury, or my grandfather died at the end of 2017. I sat around for a week waiting for him to die because he was on hospice, and that was just a terrible, terrible week of my life. And yeah, I was eating, graham crackers every time I passed the pantry, and nuts, and colossal cashews, and just really eating my feelings. And I was injured on top of that, so it's not like all of a sudden I have made myself perfect and I'm completely rigid. I've been like the trees with the wind. That's what nature does. That's real. That's real. Um, and so I do have that voice, but every time I hear it a little bit louder, I just double down and understand, say, and remind myself that it's not even just about me anymore, because I have sort of put myself out there, and now, like, me doing the thing is part of me helping others, because if people see me fall off, then it's like it almost gives them license as well. And so it's just an added thing. And I completely invited. I invite all emphasis for consistency in my life.
We have a few questions and feel free to only answer the ones you want. How old is Josh? Does he eat any nuts? And does he have loose skin?
I am 42 years old. I just turned 42 in April, and I do eat nuts. But we were just talking. It's a very um, tentative relationship, uh, and I'm very specific, and I don't keep nuts in bulk. Uh, I don't do any of that. I'm very, very deliberate about my nut intake. Some days I enjoy the caloric density of them because maybe I'm not eating a lot in that day. Um, and some days they work out great for me. But sometimes definitely it's a slippery slope food. And do I have loose skin? I've lost 230 pounds. I 1000% have loose skin. There is no doubt I have loose skin. And on my Instagram, I've showed a whole bunch of shirtless pictures of myself and all. And you can see, you know, there's a lot of loose skin here, and
Wow.
right. Um, in the stretch, I have stretch marks there. Um, and around my belly button is really wiggly and loose. I don't know how much of that is just body fat, how much is left over viscera and skin. But I really don't care. I'm just playing with it. I'm working with a good friend of mine who's more of a bodybuilder, and so I'm curious to see how, if there's a way that I can eat that specifically attacks the fat in my body, and let's do it that way. So I've been experimenting with all sorts of things, um, with my friend. But yeah, I have loose skin, and I have saggy skin, and I have stretch marks. Um, but with all of that said, I look 1,000 times better than I ever thought I was gonna look when I was fat and worried about how I was gonna look with all this extra skin. Like really, it's not a reason to not lose weight.
And your muscles incredible. I've never seen it.
The
That's
arm,
really
the arms,
amazing.
yeah, the arm, and I'm telling you, even after I had lost 100 and 180, 190 pounds, I still was worried about wearing sleeveless shirts because when I would do this, and my arm would be relaxed. You can see now here, but all of this was straight, and it was just like a flat. There was no definition there, and so just my arm, watching my arm more over the years. It's just really given me a lot of hope for the rest of my body. And the rest of the body has followed suit. But you will always be able to tell that I used to weigh 230 pounds more than I weigh now. And honestly, it's kind of neat, like, because I'll be running and then,
Uh-oh. Hope he comes back. Well, such is Zoom. How you guys doing? Thanks for being here. Hopefully he will reconnect in a moment and we will get the rest of your questions answered. He's amazing, isn't he? I've never seen his muscle before. It's incredible. And so many people that are women say, I'm afraid to lose weight because I might have loose skin. And oh, here he's back. There you go. You're sideways, but I'm so glad you're back. Well, not back yet. Your question about what the best nuts are to eat, Diane, my understanding, walnuts, unsalted and raw, highest in omega-3 fatty acids, but you can also eat seeds. Somebody, Apple says about yin yoga is helpful. We're going to be doing a free class tonight at 6 o'clock in sound bowl healing, chanting, and restorative yoga at 6 o'clock on this channel. Okay, you're good, but you're sideways. Now
Sorry.
you're fine. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
How we go down, we go.
Don't worry about it. So
Yeah, no. So, what was I saying? I'm sorry. As people.
Yeah, no, you said you're working with somebody that's helping you figure out this thing with the skin,
sure.
but
and so I've just, I look way better than I ever thought I would. It's not a reason to not lose the weight, worrying about what the loose skin is going to look like. I was thinking, dang it, I'm sorry, I forgot what we were talking about.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And if it really bothers somebody, they do have procedures now that it sounds painful, but they have a whole television show about that where they just remove the skin.
Right.
So
of course.
Not a reason not to do it. So here's somebody, Jenny says, Josh, I had weight loss surgery 10 years ago. I lost 100 pounds, but need to lose 100 more. Can I still eat plant-based?
I have no idea. I'm not, that would be a Garth Davis question, I would imagine you could. I would imagine you're going to have to affect caloric density so you can get enough calories in your little stomach now, unless you've stretched it back out over the years. But yeah, it's going to be a matter of adjusting food for sure. Right. For sure.
Yeah. And
if you don't mind, I want to say something real quick about what a lot of the plant-based doctors that I have found, and I love them all to death, but so many of them don't really give a lot of credence to worrying about volume. It's always eat as much as you. Studies show that with no concern for volume, patients, recovered or generally lost weight or whatever the case is. And that might be true when the sample size is big enough. But if you're a big eater, you can definitely whole food, plant-based put weight on by just eating too damn much food, so that's important. So and so at a certain point when we're wanting specific things, I have resorted to being way more specific than I ever used to be, weighing my food, counting calories and things like that, because I'm trying to do something really specific with my body, and if you're having trouble moving the needle, it's not some sort of biological like mystery. It's just a matter of you fixing what goes in the pie hole. It doesn't have to be an indictment on yourself or of yourself. It's just that simple. It's just a matter of adjusting. But as far as once your stomach cavity has been altered, I'm no longer your man. I have no idea. I don't want to send you down a path that's going to be deleterious to your health, because that's not my field. That's not my, I don't know. My mom had weight loss surgery, but it was the reversible kind where she just had a lap band. Once she started, she lost like 80 pounds or so with it, and then put all of it plus some back on. Once she went plant-based and started eating this way, the lap band was actually giving her problems because she couldn't get the volume of food, and so she went back in and had the lap band removed. But you can't do that with gastric bypass surgery. So I'm not your man. I would highly recommend you follow Garth Davis and even message him, because Garth is very involved. He's a good dude.
Absolutely. Jane wants to know, what are your favorite spices and what are your favorite sauces?
My favorite spice, I would say it would have to be a blend, like just a Cajun blend of something that I use. I use something called Tony Chachere's, which is a very specific Louisiana specific thing. They make a salt-free one. You can get salt-free. It's really easy, but it's just your typical blend of Cajun spices of, cayenne pepper and onion powder and garlic powder and all of the different paprika, all of the different black pepper. And I think the one I use has a little salt in it. But that's one of my favorites.
What's the name? I'm going to see if I can Google it. Tony somebody?
It's called Tony Chachere's. It's Chacherie, I think. Chachere's. It's in a green can, and it is that is like a staple.
You're right. They have a no salt blend. I'm gonna provide a link. Yep. I love hearing about. I always learn one new thing every day. That's amazing.
That's authentic Cajun. Look, I mean, Cajuns put that stuff on ice cream, man. We put it on everything. And it's just such a good. It covers everything. So if I'm making my tofu scramble, or if I'm making my stir fry, or if I'm making a bowl of grits, or if I'm making the mashed potatoes, Tony's, love it.
You're so really right. Good. He has a no salt seasoning blend. I'm going to see if I can find out more about it. It sounds great, and it has no.
And as far as sauces, I don't really make a lot of sauces. I really don't. I don't make a lot of sauces. All of my sauces are all just happen to be pan juices of what I'm cooking in the moment. But I pay attention to pan juices when I have them, and I'll add nutritional yeast, and I'm making sure that I make my pan juices taste good, because that's going to be part of my dish. And I like to have it run out over the rice whenever. But as far as me making sauces, like how McDougal or even Furman, a lot of the other guys teach you all these recipes for sauces. I've just never done it. I just don't do sauces. I just don't, unless you would call hummus, like that's more of a dip, but But
Well,
you can use hummus for so many things. I throw hummus in.
you're going to get 2 sauces or 2 California balsamic vinegars just by being on the show. So you'll have two to try in your favorite
I love
flavors.
them. I love
That-
them.
That's Carissa has heard of Tony seasoning and says that she loves it. Gina says, how does he dress up his pan juices? That's funny. How do you dress them up?
Well, that's what I'm paying attention, because so I've learned to cook really on TV with my grandfather on the weekends from a man named Chef Paul Prudhomme. And Chef Paul Prudhomme he talked a lot about seasoning in layers. So if I'm sauteing my onions, that gets a little bit of seasoning, and then I add my tempeh or my tofu or whatever, and then that gets a little bit more seasoning. And I'm constantly tasting it and seasoning, and that way I know my pan juices are gonna be right, because every time you add something, it soaks up a little bit of the previous layer of seasoning, so you got to reintroduce some more seasoning. That's what I mean by making sure that my flavors are being layered on as I cook. I know that the juice in the pan is going to be really amazing, even though it might be a little bit intense on just the juice itself in the pan, but by the time you pour it over the mashed potatoes or you pour it over the rice, it works out wonderfully, because the mashed potatoes and rice are so bland. And so that's just a very Cajun way to cook, is you just making sure, because you want all the grillades. That's what we call them, the grillade, the little things in the bottom of the pan. You want all of that. I want to just, when I'm done cooking, pour my pan out, and all of that is my food. I don't like to leave things stuck to the pan.
You use a lot of, you guys, what do you call it? The Holy Trinity. It's
Yes.
it's celery,
Bell
onion.
pepper, right, and onion, right, and of course you know garlic too. But garlic goes. You don't add the garlic when you add the Trinity, because you'll burn the garlic. So you add the Trinity first. The garlic comes a little bit later. But yeah, those 4 things are very important in every Cajun dish.
Would you say you eat fairly simply though?
Very, very
Hear-
simple.
Yeah, all the people that I've talked to really that have lost weight and kept it off, that's what I hear. They're not doing meal plans or recipes. They're just eating food.
I'm eating very simply. I've done more meal planning than I ever have in the past 2 months, just because I signed up to do a program. And so I'm doing it and it's like a bodybuilding kind of a thing. And I'm just experimenting, but yeah, generally speaking, so I'm doing more recipes than I ever have before, but it's simple tofu scramble here and, just little things like that. But yeah, that's the biggest kicker. It's so hard for people to just expect less from their food and expect more from your life. And that simple shift can just change you.
Elizabeth says, when did it go from I'm craving this to I'm going to eat this?
I guess she means, because I'm a little bit confused. So I'm craving. So is it this or that type
Well,
of
she
thing?
actually said it the other way around. She said, when did it go from I'm going to eat this to I'm craving this? So I actually read it backwards.
Right. Okay. That makes more sense. That's a really cool question. There's no pinpoint. I think I would say for tofu, because it would be different for many things, right? And for tofu, when I really learned how to use like black sea salt in my tofu scramble to give it that sulfury sort of eggy kind of vibe in the tofu scramble, I went from choking down tofu to like craving a tofu scramble, and so it's a little bit more complicated, I guess, of an answer, because it just depends on which food. Some of them I just woke up and was like, holy cow, I love beets now. Like, I hated beets my whole life. It tastes like blood and dirt, and I thought it was gross. Now I love beets. Melons, another one. And I think that maybe it's just the way my body has changed. I'm sure things realign the way, not only synapses in your brain, but also, just the sensory adaptations in your mouth, and you adjust over time. And so maybe the thing that adjusts in my brain to help me like tofu more also accidentally helped me like watermelon more. I have no idea how to explain it all, but there are tons of food that I used to hate that I now absolutely love and crave, like watermelon, for instance. I can't get enough. Especially during the summer, it's just an amazing food. And so that's kind of a crappy answer to that question, but that's about, it's complicated. I would have to break it down one by one. Yeah.
Well, Gina thought it was really profound when you said expect less from your food. And I tagged it with expect less from your food and want more for your life.
I love it. It's beautiful.
It's like we co-created a phrase.
Yeah, we co-created a catchphrase. I love it.
I love it too. I really do. So tell us about your book, From Sick to Fit. And can I say what the title that you were thinking of but didn't use that I really love, From This to That?
Sure.
It was from coon-ass to badass or something like that.
Right. Yeah. We were talking about that last time.
I really liked that, but it's called From Sick to Fit, and people can get it on your website. So talk a little bit about your book.
Yeah, that is just after that first Rich Roll podcast, he really sort of issued me a mandate, and that he's like, Josh, I see you in front of people telling people how to do this, like Phil and Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, he's like, I could see you standing at a grocery store showing people how to strip kale and doing all the things. And so from that moment going forward, after that first interview, I took it seriously because Rich is a mentor of mine. Now he's become a very dear personal friend of mine. And it mattered to me that he expected me to be a voice. And so I took that and ran with it. And lo and behold, I felt compelled to tell my own story because of how many other stories I had read that had inspired me. Rich being one, Scott Jurek, you name it, right? And that just really resonated with me. And so I started just writing. And the big thing was I met Dr. Garth Davis in 2015, and he told me verbatim, point blank, I had written like a little sort of a manifesto that I had shared with Rich Roll. And Garth Davis, after we stood in line at a coffee shop together, and after we talked for like 5 minutes, and he was like, man, you should write a book. And that really lit a fire under me to specifically write a book, not just be a voice, not just help other fat guys, but actually create something. And so he hooked me up with his co-author and friend, Howard Jacobson. And long story short, he's like, just write stuff and send it to me and let's see what we got. And Howie, lo and behold, helped me create a book out of my story. And he helped me recognize things that I had learned, because I'm just a regular person. Like, I'm not like some sort of a health coach or some sort of like healthcare professional that has all of this real smart advice for you and this nuanced understanding of, medicine or something. I'm just a dude with a story. And Howie helped me see that story and tell it from my layman's perspective, while at the same time, with him being the behavioral scientist that he is and the expert that he is and the voice he is, at the same time, him being able to pull out things from my story, actionables, that here's what Josh did, and here's what science says about that thing that he intuited, and here's what you can do to implement something similar. And that's what really makes me happy about what we've created. Is not only is it me telling my story in book form, but it actually gives some footholds for people to grab onto from Howie along the way, and introduces people to Howie as well, because Howie is just a positive force in anyone's life. And I'm really proud of it. That's all, Chef A. I am happy that I'm extremely proud. I mean, there's a book out there that it still hasn't set, you know, it still hasn't settled in.
Pretty much all the LaJuanies have books now.
Well, yeah, my mom has a cookbook with my brother, and I have this book, and I'm definitely not the only one with a story though. So it feels a little disingenuous sometimes for me, like when I'm the person who's doing the interviews and having the book and on the cover of Runner's World, but I know, if I'm being real with myself, my story is like a C- compared to so many others that I know, you know?
I think that's what we love about you. You just remain so humble. You got a lot of fans watching. Kathy Hester, who's like an amazing vegan chef, says,
I love Kathy.
I know. And you know, when you were talking about that seasoning, the first thing I thought was, well, Kathy Hester can make that, because she can literally create anything you want, salt-free or salt-free.
I'm aware.
I bet she's already created like 10 versions of Tony's spice blend.
She's gonna help me. She's gonna help me with my sauce. What you would call it? My lack of sauce recipes.
If you don't need it, don't need it. You know, food can actually taste really good without it. But she says Cheryl talks all the time about how inspiring Josh has been on her journey. And Elizabeth says, Sick to Fit helped me to recover from a severe mystery illness and helped me to recover my health. From disability to thriving, no one could help, but I could help myself. So yeah, you got a lot of love on this one. So you know what I think about more than the people that are successful are the ones that have given up hope. How can we help inspire those people that it's not hopeless, that there's always a chance to regain your health?
It's hard, Chef AJ. Like, I get it. First of all, like, I don't know if I have a nugget to give that person other than to just give them my heart, you know, give them my compassion and say, I know how bad it is. It sucks. And, you know, the only thing, my best offering, and it seems so shallow, but it's so true and it's so rich and it has been so powerful to me, is something that I learned from Rich Roll a long time ago, is mood follows action. And so make a move, damn it. Make a move. Who cares if you're hopeless and you're lost? You're still alive. Like, take a step in a direction, any direction. Let's move. For when we create action, our mood follows. And so, as difficult as it may feel, do something, even if it winds up proving to be the wrong thing. You know, you need the mistakes to spur the growth. So if you feel lost, I would venture to hypothesize that you feel lost because you're looking at all of the things that need to be changed in your life at once. And that's why you feel lost. That's why you feel hopeless. And I don't blame you, because if you looked at all of those at one time and you tried to fight all those battles and hit and play whack-a-mole with all those problems, of course you're going to quit. Why wouldn't you? It's impossible. So break it down, get simple, and do something.
Yeah. I think about what Dr. Lyle just said the other day. Don't let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now we have a new saying that I've been posting: expect less from your food and want more from your life. So we both can use it and give each other props for developing half the sentence, because I really like that. I
do too. I think it's amazing.
It's a new one. See what we get out of these shows. Well, it's just always great catching up to you. Nadej says, Josh would be the one I would like to meet in real life. And maybe when we're not having a pandemic, he'll be speaking somewhere and you can meet him because he's a great speaker. You've spoken at so many PCRM, Veg Fests. I've seen you at a bunch of Veg Fests.
It has been, yeah, that part of my life, that sort of budding part of my life, being invited to go and get on the spot in different locations around the country, and be in 3D with people. Oh my God, that is just such a special thing in my life that I would have never thought was gonna come from losing weight, you know. But that is a very special thing, and I love it. And so I hope I do get to meet her, and it's very likely that we will cross paths one day. Not hard to find.
Well, I bet you Bam Bam is like constantly looking down on your family and like smiling.
I know he's proud of us. He was proud before he went. You know, I gotta say, even though it's very sad to lose someone you love so much, of all of the people that I've been able to help in my life, with losing weight and changing health outcomes and stuff, to watch my Bam Bam go from being a 380-pound man in his late 70s to being a 200-pound man, and in his early 80s, and being able to completely get rid of his hover around, his little cart. Now he's ambulatory, and he was able to move, and he was able to walk up and down the stairs and get in and out of the truck with me and come to work with me every day. He would just ride, but that's all that was his exercise, was to get up from his recliner, walk through the living room, walk down the steps, get in my truck, and then hang out with me all day, and then do the same thing in the evening when I brought him home. And that last 3 years of his life where he was able to get that done, whereas the previous 3 years, he was just too heavy to do it and too miserable to do it. So even though we lost him still, and that was a terrible, terrible week of my life, to know that me and my family, because without my mom changing, without my brother changing, the default in the family doesn't change. And if the default in the family doesn't change, what Bam Bam doesn't eat in the twilight of his life doesn't change. And if that doesn't change, then we don't get the rich last 3 years that we got. He got to come and see me run races and go to like rural locales and watch me run trail races. And I won a 50 miler in Florida one time. I signed up for this 50-mile race, and we ran 4-mile loops, and my brother, he was there all day. It took me 9 hours and 20 minutes or so. And he was there every loop I came through, every loop I came through, every loop I came through. And I'm going to cry. He said, I get to the finish line. I'm in first place. I was blown away. And he knew, by that time in his life, the vascular dementia was really pretty pronounced. But he looked at me at the finish line, and he high-fived me, put his hand up, and he said, "We won the whole damn thing." It was one of the best moments of my life, And it wasn't just about my ability to win that race. It was about his ability to be out in the woods all day long as an 80-year-old man, and he loved it. He loves it. And it didn't put a lot of extra burden on my brother and my family, because we didn't need all sorts of accoutrement to get him from place to place. A cane and a wheelchair if it's too rocky of a surface, and we good, right? And yeah, I'm sure he's sitting up there proud. He's back hanging out with my mama. They back side by side. That's really good. And I think they're both very, very proud of their family.
That's so cool. I was going to let you go, but then Kathy Hester posted something about a program you have starting in October. Maybe you want to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. We're still just in a very, infant phases, but I want to provide all of us, Kathy and Howie and myself, just want to provide a community, a place for people to be able to go, be able to post, be able to be sort of away from the algorithms of some of the more popular social media platforms, and we can just be with one another and share what we're doing, share a lot of the things that we were talking about, answer a lot of questions that we were talking about here in this interview. Just be a warm, inviting, sick to fit community for like-minded people who are trying to get aligned with their most authentic version of themselves. And you know, that's what we're working on right now. And I mean, it's still in the development phases, but it's coming. And keep your eyes peeled and your ears open. And I'm definitely going to be sharing how to participate in what we're up to very soon.
That's amazing. It's
But
so
you
great.
can go to sicktofit.com and you can go from there. Should be pretty easy.
I posted the link in the chat, but I'll make sure to also post everything in the show notes.
Yes.
Thanks so much for catching up with me, Josh. It's always great talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Chef.
At any time. And guys, thank you so much for watching. And please come back in 3 hours when we're going to have a restorative yoga class with chanting and sound healing that you won't want to miss. Say hi to your family. I love them now too.
I definitely will. And they love you as well.
Okay. All right. Take care.